next one, we have heard a lot about and talked a lot about housing. So I guess give me your opinions, thoughts, plans on affordable housing and what that means to you, or what you would be in favor of. If you see it as an issue, what we should be doing. Housing as a topic, and Spencer, if you can go first.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. I think I'm the only candidate on the ballot this year in any of the city races in the whole county that actually currently lives the struggle of affordable housing. We are having this interview in my 300 and some odd square foot apartment above Red Hat on Commerce that had water damage flooding Friday night in the monsoon sideways rain we had. Trying to find anything in this market is difficult, whether you're a renter or a buyer. Now, I see both sides. I grew up out on Stella in west of Longview, out in the country on, a couple acres of land. So I learned the value of home ownership and, paying your property taxes and upkeeping your property. And in my role now as an insurance agent, it's interesting, to see all the different houses we insure that I insure with my clients and inspections and all that. Working with contractors and things like that, property management companies that are supporting me and that I've talked to, the cost of construction has a direct correlation with not only the cost of the housing that you're going to pay, whether it's a mortgage rate or whether it's your rent, if it's a rental property, paying back your loans, et cetera, but government has a lot to do with the cost of housing. And I have a big issue with, stormwater mandates, with stormwater fees and impact fees. I know that the city of Longview, I just have talked with City Manager Saha about it with auxiliary dwelling units, your mother-in-law suites that I advocated at City Council in favor of several years ago when it came up, and at the Planning Commission Zoning Board. But a good thing we do is we don't charge for separate impact fees on ADUs. I think we need to continue that. I think that we need to eliminate minimum parking requirements for specific densities of zoning. I know that, if it's a government regulation or a tax or a fee that's going to take, let's say a 20-unit project built in Longview from affordable at lower rates that, somebody getting out of high school can afford if they've got a decent job. If the cost of the construction due to government permitting and regulation is going to take that project from affordable to above market rate or at market rate, I think we need to work with developers on streamlining those processes, creating more incentives for more affordable housing construction. I know I was in favor of recently a developer in the last year wanted to purchase one of the parking lots that the city government owns. There's one right outside my window over here next to the police station as well. Angie, I know you've talked about 4/1s. It's a great project idea that a lot of other cities our size have been able to use to their advantage to increase density in areas that are already supposed to be higher density. In the original city plan, it was supposed to be higher density commercial and apartment buildings, mixed use projects from 15th all the way to the Cowlitz Riverfront. We're still fulfilling R.A. Long's vision for a fully planned out city. And I think that zoning regulations and streamlining permitting and processes as well is a good idea. A big problem I've heard in not only the county planning department for approvals is the same with the city, is that we need more staff that are better trained, and we need to be able to retain more staff that are highly trained so that we can more efficiently move through the permitting process in the first place. It shouldn't take months to get a permit to build a shed or a garage on your property. It should take a couple weeks, if that. You shouldn't have to go to City Hall 16 times to get your permits approved. I'd also like to see a more streamlined online portal for permitting as well, depending on what the type of permit is. I know Miami's made great strides in that. Granted, that's 1 million people in a city versus 39,000, but these are examples that we can use to get our city in the 21st century. So I hope I answered your question well enough on that.
Yes. Yep. And if Chet, you could go next.
Yes, sir. Well, transitional housing, and we have to be able to, I'm going to sound like I'm copying Spencer, but I'm not. I think we think quite a bit alike on this one. We've got to work out a way to have transitional housing. And he hit on something that I'd never thought about before. Is young people coming out of high school and or over at LC trying to find a place, you know, to stay. You know, and that's one of the reasons we don't keep young people around here. I've got a daughter and a son. They live in Bend and in Portland. I mean, that's one of the reasons they didn't stick around here. There's others, of course, but that's one of the reasons. So we need to figure out a way that, golly, when Gita and I were first married, we rented a place for a couple $100 a month over there in Kelso, and then moved to Longview. But a couple $100 wasn't that much back in the, you know, the 60s. Now it's thousands of dollars for these young people, and people are on low income. Young people, people were talking about coming out of the homeless camps. We got to get that transitional housing going. I think we need to work with the county, of course, but we also need to get the city working with other people to get the contractors where they can afford. It's a bottom line issue, because if they can't make money once they're up, well, they're not going to build them. And so there's got to be some way to incentivize this to where we can get some buildings, traditional housing going. I don't know the exact way to go around it, because one thing is one of the things I have a problem with tax dollars is you hear people say, well, we can go ahead and use federal dollars. That doesn't cost us anything. Or we can use state dollars, or we can use these dollars. There's a cost for every dollar we use. Somebody's paid in to the government to kick these dollars back out. So there is a cost to everything we do. And people that try to say, well, we'll let the government do it and it's their money. That's a good way to get in a lot of trouble, I think, financially, particularly as a city. We can't put programs in place allowed by federal funding, because you don't know if you're going to get it every year. Maybe you'll get it 5 years, but after that, somebody's got to pay for it. It's a tough issue. I think the city needs to, if contractors come in and want to do something, I think we need to help them out as much as we can, as much as we legally can, and do it, you know, to do it for everybody. Maybe we can get some really good things going on. There's things in it, you know, that have been talked about, but we can't do them right now. So we'll have to just wait and keep working on it. And I promise you, everybody's been working on this for a long time. And again, this is not one of those easy issues we just can't go out and buy transitional housing or go build it, you know, and then everybody's going to come and move into it. It just, city can't afford that. So we got to help them in permitting or other ways. I'd love to see the government come up with some kind of a deal and to where we could help without, you know, using other funding, but you know, I don't know how we're going to do it right now. So anyway, I just don't know how. I wish I knew how.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, this has been an issue that has been key to my campaign. I put it I couched it as housing affordability, because I think that's a even more important term than necessarily affordable housing, because affordable housing only addresses the low income aspect of it, especially low income families, it suggests, you know, government aid as well. Housing affordability, as other candidates have discussed today, really is key to helping move our community forward into that 21st century community we want to see. I've been pushing that we should utilize what's already in the code and see about actually utilizing the multifamily housing tax credit we have in there. just because it's in the code doesn't mean that it's a bad option. We have to actually try with the tools that we have before us, with the resources we have. We actually have to try to utilize them. That's why it was very enheartened a couple of weeks ago at council to see what the city manager presented in terms of a plan for, at its basic level, mixed use density downtown. I definitely support that. I definitely support, and I've talked about it at length, taking a hard look at what regulations locally that we can streamline. It's a bit out of my wheelhouse, but you know, in running for city council, but I really would like to see a renewed look at state stormwater requirements for new construction when a community is already protected by a diking district. That's something that the banking folks and existing representatives have been discussing with me. And I, you know, regardless of my race's outcome, I think that's something that we really, when it comes to advocacy, should look at, because we pay for a diking district and it's part of our tax dollars. And with this myriad patchwork of stormwater regulations, there are really some concerns about how much it is throttling growth while not actually accomplishing its mission to not you know, cause excess stormwater onto properties. I think it when it comes to housing affordability, the as well, and bringing talent in here, coming to Longview, I think that's a really good point that hasn't been fully discussed by other candidates in this race. But I think it's very important that we attract newcomers. They may not have been born and raised here, but I think it's very important that we take our life experiences elsewhere, especially those young folks that have work and education experience elsewhere. They gain that and they come back to this community and enrich it with that experience. I think that's something that at times our community is a little too insular about. And I think that we really need to embrace whether or not people were born and raised in Longview. Obviously, the entire slate of candidates here are today, but we really need to welcome those people, doctors and the medical profession, teachers. And because ultimately it's not just their tax dollars here, it's their contributions to civil society.
Okay. Angie.
Thanks, Dave. So Spencer actually echoed it, because I'm a huge fan of the 401 concept. And what I love about being able to bring new styles of housing to town is it accommodates multiple different people in our community. So not just people out of high school, but being able to have a place where, you know, if they were to make those studio apartments, it would be perfect for like a very young in career or the students at LCC to be able to, have a safe place to go. But also, you know, I think that what's key is packaging that with a vibrant downtown and being able to have a place that is a destination for this community to be able to go to congregate. Because when we have, you know, we've got great shops down there, we've got restaurants, we've got, you know, Spencer's the, you know, poster child on this call of those that are living and breathing it down there, which I love, because there is a lot of opportunity to have more of that. And that also is important because it attracts the employers when they're looking at, do I choose Longview? What is downtown like? Is there housing? And when we can have those synergies in our living space, and instead of having to always grow out from a real estate perspective, being able to grow up and go up, I think is important. It also is great for our people in the community that are of age that they're not ready for Canterbury, right? But maybe they don't want to have their own home still and have to maintain the yard. Like I know where my mom is at right now, right? Like she doesn't need to go and have a place that's, you know, retirement, you know, and assisted type living, but she might enjoy having a community where she could have other people that are her age that are able to engage and connect. So I think that's really important. I also am very supportive of ADUs. I think that that is a great option in this community, and I think it would help people bring others and be able to build within their own, the land that they have and be able to do that. So I'm definitely a fan of that. When we look at low income, I do think that having low barrier housing and being able to bring people in is also a necessity. So that's something that I think that, we have to look at each of our different, kind of life stages of people in the community, and then what do they need, and how do we, as a city, look at attracting builders that want to come in and bring that in? How do we model maybe what's happening in, let's say, Camas, right, and how they're doing it in their downtown? So again, not having to go and hire a bunch of consultants and pay a lot of city money. How do we leverage some of those ideas to, build Longview up, bring people in, and have that vibrant downtown that then attracts the employers that want to come and invest in our community?